The Laughing Cavalier here, presenting to you another tale of these troubled times, and I hope everybody's having fun in the event. I don't think I need to say how much else what the event is. I've been having a fun time during the event, and I decided to watch The White Queen, as you may have seen on my Twitter.
I was forever trapped in an infinite timeline of pain and suffering. I envy death.
Oh dear. I've got to say, I knew it was going to be bad when I was going into it, because I have seen, obviously, The White Princess and The Spanish Princess, but there were some things I was not expecting with this. And I saw this nearly a week ago, and I've just been unable to talk about it. It's weird. I've sort of been almost in a trance, like I can't articulate my views on this, so obviously that means I'll have to do it in the form of a rant video at some point. Although I took a few notes, about 5,000 of them, so... But to help with that, I thought, why don't we have a look at some articles? And here's one from the BBC, where they interviewed Philippa Gregory back in 2013. Truth, Lies, and Historical Fiction, or if I just correct that for you, Lies and Fiction. An interview with the White Queen writer Philippa Gregory. And yeah, this is published in BBC History magazine, so well done, BBC. What do you think is the appeal of historical fiction? It gets you straight to the things you want to know about, the people, their stories, and their lives. Readers love to know what happened in the past, but don't necessarily want to get bogged down in the minutiae of the day, such as the economy and the types of crops that are being grown. No, I love that in dramas. I love a scene where it's like, oh my lord, we planted the wrong type of wheat. Oh, damn it. We need more of that in our dramas. Historical fiction, when well written, shame yours isn't, can teach you these things without you having to study it. No, I still would study it, to be honest, because otherwise, if you got your history from this, I would be very worried. That reminds me, actually, I think it's one of those, I forget the name of the channel, like, is it Infographics or something like that? Not Infographics. One of those sort of ones where they got the cartoon, and they got a load of ones about the Tudors, all look so clickbaity. Like, they got one of Henry VIII, like, why did he kill them all? And it's got a picture of a guillotine in the background. Just like, why has he got a guillotine that you didn't have that? And then they did one on Henry VII, and they used the White Princess as a source. I was like, oh, no. Anyway, back to this. Question to Philippa Gregory. How do you turn historical facts into good fiction? You don't. No. Oh, I don't know what she actually says. A great deal of research. One very likely. Oh god, I feel like one of the old Pink Panther films. I forget the one where they think Clouseau's died, so Dreyfus has to read out the eulogy at his funeral. He's just laughing throughout the whole of it. That's me right now, just reading this. My job is to write coherent, well put together novels that just happen to be set in the accurately researched past. Yes, because as we all know, it was 100% accurate that Jaquetta Woodville was a witch. There was one accusation about that, around about when Edward IV was imprisoned by Warwick, but it wasn't proven. And I get the impression that with a lot of Philippa Gregory stuff, at least, well, the TV adaptations, of course, that she just sort of takes a rumour and says, well, it clearly must be the truth, we'll run with that. So she's now a witch. And that's one of my biggest criticisms of the whole thing, is like, we have the Wars of the Roses, this interesting period of all these dynasties fighting for the throne and interesting people, and you focus on made-up witchcraft plots. Why? Just have the interesting drama. One of the things I would criticise it is that it starts a bit too late for me. Like this, the main series starts in 1464 with Edward IV marrying Elizabeth Woodville. I really would love just to have seen a series, starting back in, say, the 1450s, with showing how we got to the Wars of the Roses happening. With Henry VI being unable to rule and his wife taking over, and the conflict between her and the Duke of York and so on. But too much to ask for, I guess. According to Philippa Gregory, I spent about 2 years researching my books, talking to people, just random people, I guess, visiting places, reading books about the subjects. Really? But I would never allow myself to put something in a novel just because I found about it and thought it was fascinating, unlike witchcraft stuff. It has to be relevant to the story, unless it's witchcraft, and not simply included for the sake of it, unless it's witchcraft. Is factual accuracy still important when writing historical fiction? Absolutely. Historical fiction writers need to make the call as to whether to include certain facts or not, based on whether they believe they can be justified. Well, there we go then, Philippa Gregory said it. So. So anyway, I'm probably going to skip through something because I've got another article I want to get through. But let's see. How do you defend historical fiction to its critics? I find I have to defend historical fiction less now than ever before. People have to understand that it isn't bad history. I would say it definitely is bad history. When again we have witchcraft shit. We have. I've got to say I don't know about you, but I did not like. Is it Max Irons, the actor playing Edward IV? He just did not feel. The fact he doesn't look like him doesn't help, but he just did not feel like Edward. In fact, because again, my main area of expertise is sort of the Tudors onwards, really. So this is a little bit before my sort of stuff. But it's interesting. The more I'm reading about Edward IV, the more I'm finding there's a lot of stuff he did that Henry VII would later adopt, particularly financial policies. I mentioned this in Tudor Rant 3 with the Breton crisis, how he managed to basically get a load of money from the French, including the French pension. That was Edward IV originally got that back in the 1470s in his campaign to France. He got the King of France to basically pay him a load of money. So he's got some quite kind of clever things, but he was just a bit let down by the fact that, number one, he had so many rebellions to deal with, and number two, he wasn't the best judge, I suppose, particularly when it came to betraying the Earl of Warwick. But we really don't seem to get that at all, other than like one scene where he's doing a bit of paperwork, I guess. But this is going to answer one a good question for when I do the rant video. How much input into the BBC TV series The White Queen did you have? I was keen to have as much input as possible, and ultimately worked as associate producer on the series. I read all the scripts, met the actors, and visited the set. I am delighted with how it's turned out. It looks absolutely wonderful, and people are going to find it very compelling to watch. Oh dear. So, well, I answered that. We know who's very much responsible for a lot of this. And the funny thing is, like, the version, I saw the BBC version of it, which is apparently heavily edited, because they cut down a lot of the sex scenes and so on. But even the ones they left in are just so... I don't know how to describe it. They just feel like they're just for the shock value and not really to move the plot along at all or do anything like that. It's just there to shock you and get more views and generate headlines. It's always got shocking scenes in it, and which I don't know about you. I don't really like that in a show, but hey ho. Oh dear. What do you think makes for good historical drama on TV? If you're going to make a historical drama, you've got to have some drama. That means that means well-defined, interesting characters. Shame he didn't do any of that, really, but hey-ho. The White Queen, unlike many historical dramas, doesn't depict women as passive recipients of the big sweep of history. That seems to me to be a far more interesting way to tell the story, and one that is far truer to life. Now, when you say true to life, do you mean life in the present day or in that day and age? Because the problem is I feel like you sort of focus far too heavily on other people, like, Elizabeth Woodville and so on, and not the people actually shaping, like Edward IV, and as I mentioned, a lot of what he was doing. The only one I would say was Richard. That was an interesting take, and it was a bit more better, but he comes across as so weak. And then they make out Anne Neville is sort of, and even his own mother encouraged him to take the throne. Was like, what the hell is this? Honestly, the whole Prince's arc, that's a bit more I know a little bit about with the timeline of it. They get into the chronology so horrible in that. I mean, historically, what happened was Edward IV died rather suddenly in about April, I think it was. I can't remember the exact date. Richard was in the north, ruling up there. Now Edward V was in Ludlow and Wales. They weren't at his deathbed, but in this show they decided to have him there, because I don't know reasons why. What happened historically is Richard then dashed off with his men to intercept Edward along with Anthony Woodville Earl Rivers, the Queen's brother, and then he turned on Rivers, arrested him, had him imprisoned in Pontefract, I think it was. And at that point, that's when Elizabeth Woodville fled to Sanctuary. But in this one, they make out Rivers. He's around for a while. He's friendly with Richard. He's like, you should be in prison by now. What are you doing? And they're just like, why did you get that timeline wrong? Is it because never mind. I'll have to address it when we do the video. And final bit on this one. How important is authenticity when filming historical dramas? Terribly important. You should see the notes I sent to the series producers waxing lyrical about the use of horses' clothes, how people travelled and so on. That sort of thing really matters. Yeah. It's a shame we didn't have a chat about the Battle of Bosworth scene where they're fighting it in the middle of winter in a wood whilst using Norman kite shields and, outfits that they wouldn't be wearing. But there we go. Actually, that leads me quite neatly onto this other BBC article, where they got some production facts, including one about Nick Eddy, the costume designer, dressed the men in tight padded trousers, not tights, as these days tights are associated with Robin Hood movies and bad jokes. They wanted the men to be masculine, did not want their clothes to be distracting. So it's good to see you're basing your judgments on how to make a drama off of Robin Hood movies, or how to not be a Robin Hood movie. So it's just like... No. And there's something also with the authenticity, it really bugged me as well with some of the locations they were using, because apparently they filmed it in Belgium. So, okay, fair enough, there's a lot of medieval castles and things there and so on. There's this one set, and I'm trying to find where it is, which is like doubling up for like the Royal Palace, I assume of Westminster or somewhere like that. What is it? It looks like a stable or something, and they've got these big iron railings and they go up the stairs that do not look medieval at all. They look like something that was installed in the 50s, for tourists. I was just like, why did you film it there? I don't know. So yeah, there's not much else I can say. I'm sorry I sound so defeated with this. We work on a rant video at some point. At the moment, I'm quite busy doing Tudor Rant 4, the Waterloo review. I've got the Q&A video. I've still got that one to do. And I've got a history video about the Battle of Stoke Field I'm working on. Because unfortunately the Spanish Princess is proceeding. Of all the things, that get postponed because of the event, I was rather hoping that would be one of them. Like, they even postponed Princess Principal, the movie, because of the event. Like, that was the one thing I was looking forward to this year. But now I've got a Spanish Princess at the end of the year to watch. Oh dear, well, maybe it'll get delayed, who knows. But yeah, so like I said, I might be doing a few history videos with Stoke Field. I want to do one about the Battle of Flodden at some point as well, because get that done before the Spanish Princess comes out, because then I can refer back to that when I never do the rant video about it. So anyway, this has been the Laughing Cavalier, wishing you a good day.